It was quite something, wasn't it?
The puddle at the end of Sandfield Bridge. I didn't even see that. Did you see it?
No, but I felt it.
Me too.
Morning. I'd like to call the April the 13th Committee of Adjustment meeting to order. And welcome. Moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment agenda dated April 13th, 2026 be adopted. All those in favor? That's carried. And the adoption of the minutes.
Interest.
Oh, yeah. Any conflict of interest? No, there wouldn't be any. Moved by Member Grogan Green, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment minutes dated March the 9th, 2026 be adopted and approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Would you like to go ahead?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is required that I make a few statements, then I will explain the hearing procedures. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Alan Edwards, Barb Bridgman, Lisa Grogan Green, and Sean Stokes. I can confirm we have quorum and that senior staff and planning staff are present. Public input on this April 13th agenda was invited to the following email address: planning@muskokalakes.ca. Now I will explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application, the date the notice was circulated, and planning staff's comments. All internal and external submissions received by 8:15 a.m. today have been made available to committee members and the public. These submissions can be viewed under Section 10 of the agenda. When able, planning staff will do their best to circulate comments that were received after 8:15 a.m. These submissions will also form part of the public record and will be available for the public on the township's government portal. The planner will identify the source of each submission and whether it is in support or opposition to the application. Should committee members wish to view any submissions during the meeting, they may request that it be projected onto the council chamber screen to view. The committee will hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information or to substantiate their proposal. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. The committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Presentations are limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. If you are here to speak on an application electronically, please wait until after the planner presents the relevant application to raise your hand in Zoom. If you are here to speak on an application in person, when asked, please raise your hand, and when you are recognized by the chair, please approach the podium, turn on the microphone, and remain at the podium while you state your comments for recording purposes. The committee will hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent to respond to any questions or concerns raised. The committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions, have a debate on the application, and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. Please note that the effect of written and oral submissions on decisions for consent and minor variances, along with the reasons for minor variance decisions, are both required under the Planning Act, and motions are pre-populated with standard wording. However, the committee may decide to add reasons and/or effects to the standard wording after voting on a decision. Motions have also been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. It must be noted the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There is a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. Building permits are not available until after the appeal period and if no appeals are received. Due to the uncertainty of Canada Post, we ask all of those who would like a copy of the notice of decision to email planning@muskokalakes.ca. Lastly, please take down the pink notice signs that were posted on your property to advertise today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm just going to turn it over to Director Howe.
Thank you, committee, and good morning. I just want to take an opportunity to introduce our new manager of planning, Steve Stone. Welcome, Steve. Steve holds a Bachelor of Environmental Science from University of Waterloo and a Master's of Science from University of Guelph. He's a registered professional planner and has 30 years of experience in similar planning locations in the Muskoka and Haliburton area. Even working as a former municipal director of planning for over 10 years. So we're really excited to have him, and I think he'll bring a wealth of experience to the team. Thank you.
Now, down to business. The first application is B 5425 ML, and that is Ms. DeMello.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The first application to be heard is consent application B 5425 ML in the name of Quiglan Invest Inc. and 2058949 Ontario Inc. The subject lands are known municipally as 1032 Mahon Farm Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 35 of the agenda package. The application proposes to sever a portion of property and add it to an abutting property to the north in the ownership of Gary Sohal and Roma Sohal. The purpose of the application is to transfer the severed lot to the benefiting lot to accommodate the future development of a storage building abutting an existing sports court located on the benefiting lot. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 31 days in advance of this meeting, and 6 comments have been received to date. No comments received from internal departments state any objection to the application. Comments from the District Municipality of Muskoka also state no objection. Comments received for this application were circulated to committee prior to the hearing. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and recommend that the application be approved subject to the recommended conditions of consent. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you, Ms. DeMello. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? Yes, Member Bridgman.
Thank you, Chair. It was just a curiosity question. As I read this through and saw that in 1983, the District Land Division Committee established those other properties, it occurred to me, I wonder when we started a planning division here in the township. Does anybody know the history of that?
Maybe David knows that.
Sorry, David.
Sorry, no problem. Thank you. Through you, just clarify where that reference is or what planning division you're referring to, and I can see if I can recall.
It's just in the notes that the you know, the very small part that goes to the lake. Though these lots were all created in 1983, and it says the District Land Division Committee. So it was at the district level then. So I'm just curious when the planning department started here, more than anything else.
Thank you. I'm not sure the exact date of when the planning department, I think it's existed for, well, prior to that, but yes, the District of Muskoka had a land division committee that dealt with consents. And that was downloaded to the area municipalities, I believe, in the 90s. And that's when planning responsibilities increased at the area municipalities, and you saw local planning departments grow a little bit as opposed to the district.
Thank you.
It's probably the same time, Peel region downloaded it to, the township and the town of Calvin, and that was in the 90s. I just didn't know when we did here. Any other questions or comments? Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Stokes, be it resolved, consent be granted for application B 5426 ML Quiglan Investments Inc. and 2058949 Ontario Inc., providing the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a certificate of consent under section P 42 of the Planning Act, along with a transfer in preparation, be prepared by a solicitor and shall be given to the Secretary Treasurer within 2 years from the date of notice of the decision was given. 2, that one hard copy and a digital copy of a satisfactory registered reference plan on the severed lands prepared by an Ontario land surveyor be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, which corresponds with the application as submitted. A draft copy of the reference plan shall be provided to the Secretary Treasurer for review and approval prior to the registration on title. And 3, that subsection 3 of section 50 of the Planning Act apply to any subsequent conveyance, and that any legal undertaking be submitted by the acting solicitor, which confirms that the severed lot will merge in title to the benefiting lot upon registration of the transfer/deeds, which may include a cancellation of consent if necessary. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. The next application is A 9224, and that's Ms. DeMello.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-9224, amended in the name of Glessing. The subject lands are known municipally as 1027 Stroud Beach Road, unit number 32. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent or site plan on page 51 of the agenda package. The applicant proposes to construct a sleeping cabin. This application was previously heard at the May 16th, 2025 Committee of Adjustment hearing, where it was deferred to allow township staff to conduct a subsequent site visit to evaluate terrain constraints and for the applicants to consider an alternative development envelope in light of comments received from an abutting neighbor to the east. To address comments received from the abutting property owner to the east, the applicant has revised the proposal and has adjusted the location of the sleeping cabin to comply with the 15-foot side yard setback requirement. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 31 days in advance of this hearing, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments from Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Matt Veach, the Township's Development and Transportation Engineering Coordinator, indicate no objection. Comments from Chriselle Story, the Township's Land and Agreement Coordinator, indicate no objection and state that the original Shore Road allowance is still in Township ownership. Any work proposed on the OSRA will require the owner to purchase the OSRA. Comments were received from Ryan Morrell, the Township's Fire Chief, indicating no concerns, and note that the property is located in an area of extreme wildland fire risk and recommend a careful review of the Fire Smart Homeowners Manual to understand how treatments to the property influence wildfire spread. One comment in opposition to the application was received from Melanie Dixon at 2191 Aston Road, which was shared with committee members prior to the meeting. The proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. This table can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mello. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? Good morning. Can we have your name and address and welcome?
She's muted.
You're muted. Can you turn your sound on, please?
Sorry, I think, am I okay now?
Yes, you're fine. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Thanks very much for hearing the reapplication or the amended application. So my name's Jill Glessing. I'm at 261 Bartlett Avenue, Toronto. Is that the information that you needed to begin? Or the cottage of the address of the property that is in question?
Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, is that the adequate information that you needed?
Yes, that's fine. Yes, sorry, I didn't have my mic on.
Thanks very much. I did make a statement last year when this was initially applied for, but I don't know if you still have that on record, but I could reiterate some of those points if you'd like, or I can take any questions or concerns that you have.
Whatever you'd like to say.
I just wanted to clarify that the condition of the cottage that is there, it's a very small cottage. It's a 1-bedroom, has very limited sleeping space, and it's also very limited workspace if you have more than one person there. I'm semi-retired, but I do write still, and that is what I require kind of private space for. So one of the main purposes actually is not a sleeping cabin, even though it's officially entitled that. It's a space to be quiet and work and read in the daytime. But obviously it would be helpful for overflow because, as I said, it is a 1-bedroom place. It's 400 square feet, so pretty tiny, pretty humble. I'm very concerned with environmental issues, so that's part of what this new piece, new building would be a part of that whole concern of mine. So to be very careful environmentally. Yeah, so I guess that's the main thing is to have a space, a quiet space to write and work for when there's more than one person at the cottage. It's difficult. And also, obviously, for if there's any occasional visitors, and I will not be renting it. I rent it. I rent out the main cottage to mainly my family, but I will not be renting out the cabin. That's not the purpose of it at all. And there is a pathway up to our own outhouse, quite a reasonable pathway that goes right back up there. So that's not a concern. I don't know. Are there any other questions that come to mind that you?
Well, I have to ask everybody else just a minute. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Yes, would you come up, give your name, address, and postal code, please?
Hi, my name is Melanie Dixon. I live at 2191 Spin Road, Utterson, Ontario, POB 1MO. I'm the daughter of Rodney Dixon, who did own the cottage. The situation right now, which is kind of unique, is my dad passed away November 1st, 2025. The cottage to the east right now legally is owned by nobody. It is going to be for sale in the next 2 weeks. We, right now, according to my lawyer, are asking for this application to be put on hold until the cottage is sold. And then Jill, my cousin Jill, can talk to the new owners about her application. we still have the same concerns. The sleeping cabin, they still have to go up a rocky hill in the middle of the night. It's a safety issue. The cabin is still closer level to us when she has to clear that section for the sleeping cabin, but has a cleared section behind her own cottage, which is closer to the amenities that the people sleeping in that cabin would need. She does rent out her cottage, as she admitted. So depending on who would rent the cottage, they would use that as a sleeping cabin. If she only needs it for writing and her creative painting and things that she does, I did approach her last summer and say, why don't you just make a gazebo without a bed? So I did try to compromise with her last year on behalf of my dad and suggested a gazebo or a structure without a bed. That way we would feel better because nobody would be sleeping. We would have privacy at night because we already hear from her cottage and the other cottage, and the gazebo would be nicer for her inspiration. She would, and we wouldn't object to a gazebo, but a sleeping cabin we do still object to. And for safety reasons and water flow and just the noise level at night. And the fact that my dad's not here and the will is not, the owner is not available and has passed away, and the cottage is going to be up for sale. So according to my lawyer, it's a tricky, there's nobody here to represent that property right now. And we are asking that it go on hold until the cottage is sold. Any questions?
Anyone else? Okay. Other questions from the members? Yes. Member Bridgman.
Okay, thank you, Chair Edwards. I'm sorry on the loss of your dad. That's
Thank
very
you.
recent, and I'm sure
Yeah.
it's still very painful.
It's hard to speak.
Yeah. Mr. Mello, you went out and did another look at the property. Is there a place behind the cottage that would work?
Through you, Chair Edwards, I did visit the property in June of last year. There are terrain constraints on the property. There's some steep slopes, mainly abutting the shoreline, and there are some wet areas behind the dwelling as well. It's a very small structure that's proposed. It's 96 square feet, so I do think there would be other building envelopes available on the property, considering how small it is. But the applicant has opted to largely maintain the existing location that was originally proposed for the sleeping cabin and has shifted it further to the west to comply with the 15-foot side yard setback requirement to address concerns related to trespassing, noise, privacy. So for those reasons, staff felt that there was an improvement that was made to the application.
Follow-up.
Could I do a follow-up,
Mhm.
please? In terms of planning, the only tool that this committee would have is the 50-yard setback, because everything else is a right for this property owner. So just to let you know that, and the rental, and unfortunately you're wanting to sell it, doesn't play into the Planning Act and what we have to consider. I just wanted you to understand that. So I guess I would say to the owner, are you interested in moving this again? Because I don't feel the 50-yard setback is enough to deny this application. But I'm wondering if the owner would be willing to put it closer to the cottage. And what I'm also unclear of is there indoor plumbing in this cottage, or is the outhouse the only option?
There's indoor plumbing in her cottage.
Okay, so maybe we could ask the owner.
Okay, go ahead. Talking to the owner.
Mute. Thank you. There's an outhouse, and that's the main use, toilet use. There is a composting toilet inside, but composting toilets don't work that well, I've discovered. So I limit that to nighttime use. So the outhouse is the only toilet. Is that the question? And Is that what you needed to know?
Thank you, Chair Edwards. This truly is still a cottage. I can see that. But what I
Oh,
was
yeah.
asking, what I was asking was, would you be willing to put it closer to the main cottage, which is being asked by
Oh, right.
your
Okay.
neighbor? That
Sorry.
was all I was asking.
Sorry. There is a problem up there. There is relatively flat space. There is a lot of a big wood pile that's there right now, and also the outhouse is right there too. It was moved from a lower location that was closer to the lake when my dad passed away long ago, because a river sort of ran like a stream runs right under the outhouse. It was, and so we had to move that. So I had to move that. So it's moved uphill and further back away from the lake and behind the cottage. So that's the spot that's more, flat. There used to be a building there, a little ice house there was there years ago. But so that's the reason I wouldn't want it right next to an outhouse and yeah, and the wood pile that's there.
Excuse me, I'm a little confused. I said the cottage, not the outhouse, because it looks to me like the outhouse is a fair distance from your cottage.
Yeah, it's back behind the cottage. So you're asking me to move if I want to move the new structure closer to the cottage?
The suggestion was there's room for it there. So I just wanted your comment on it. That's all.
Right. So the way you see the shape of the amended structure is unusual because there's a rock there. So that's the steep bit of an incline up to the cottage. So it can't be moved further west. That's as far west. I mean, there might be a bit of wiggle room that could move it a little bit further west, but there's a rock there, so it's not going to be very much further than what's on the plan, what's been submitted. Sorry, I hope that answers the question. And the other areas are steep and wet.
Okay, thank you. It did. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Yes.
Through you, Chair. Excuse me. I had the same question as Member Bridgman, and I think that the property owner has been accommodating and has done what she can to alleviate the situation. And if she's not willing or interested in moving it elsewhere, I believe that's fair. So I would be in support of.
Your support, okay. Any other comments?
So just to be clear, she's not going to be.
No, just a minute, sir. We've gone to what committee?
Okay,
Or you may sit down now.
okay, thanks.
Moved by Member Stokes, second by Member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that minor variance application E9224 Glessing to construct a sleeping cabin is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. To permit a front yard setback of 50 feet for a sleeping cabin, this variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Got it. And the next application is A9125 Birchwater Investments Limited, and that is Ms. Walker, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll take Ms. Crowder.
Hi, good morning, Chair Edwards, and good morning, members of committee. This application is actually one of our other planners, Ms. Heron, but she is unfortunately ill with the flu today, so she's stayed home to keep us all healthy. So I'm going to present on her behalf. So thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A9125 in the name of Birchwater Investments Limited. The subject lands are known municipally as 1167 Armstrong Point Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 75 of the agenda package. The applicant proposes to recognize an as-built dock and to construct additions to it, as well as to construct a single-story addition with a rooftop sun deck to an existing two-story boathouse. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 13 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments from the Township's Operational Services Department, Emergency Services Department, and Legislative Services Department indicate no objection to the applications, or to the application. Comments were received from the Development Services Division stating no objection and that a building permit is required to legalize the dock addition constructed without a permit. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package as well. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be adjourned until a revised floor plan depicting the proposed use within the interior of the first story of the boathouse, which would be attached to the notice of decision at the time a decision is rendered, is provided. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. And is the applicant's agent wish to speak on this? We have.
Yes, good afternoon, committee members. Bassett Madamidola from the Coning Group. Address is 3 Armstrong Point Road in Port Carling, Ontario. Postal code P0B1JO. So, yes, updated floor plans were submitted for this application, depicting the proposed use for the boathouse, the lower level of the boathouse, which was to be used as storage for marine equipment. And this was submitted on April 10th.
Do we have those drawings?
Through you, Chair. The applicant's agent did submit a floor plan drawing. So first there was floor plan drawing submitted with the application when it was submitted, but they didn't have labels on the floor plan of what the intended use was going to be. And then when we flagged this concern, a revised floor plan was provided to Ms. Heron, which had a label storage on it. However, it's my understanding that she had written back to the agent asking that the area that's to be this proposed storage be delineated to ensure that the proposed use is clearly indicated in the floor plan. So it's not my understanding that we're in a position where the floor plans are ready to be attached today, and that Ms. Heron is currently in discussions with the agent on proposed revisions.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any comments? Is there anybody else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition to this application? Questions or comments from the members?
I certainly agree with the adjournment. I just would like a little clarification from Ms. Crowder, if I could. What I'm not understanding from page 75, it says existing dock. Is that the one that was built without the building permit? Or is there more to be built from that? I understand we're going to go through this again later, but the green part is what?
Through you, Chair.
Yes.
Okay. No, it's okay.
I just let you go.
Oh, thank you.
You're right, please.
Through you, Chair, to Member Bridgman. So the green is proposed new dock additions. So those have not been constructed yet. So there's a larger portion out in front of the boathouse that's in green on the north side, and that is proposed. And then there's a small portion of dock on the south side of the boathouse that is also proposed. The as-built portion of dock that we're referring to in the staff report isn't indicated in a color. It's the adjoining dock connecting the finger with the boathouse dock. The section of dock in there that connects the two is what appears to be as built.
Okay, so the green part is what's being asked for.
Correct. Well, yes, but they also have to recognize the as-built portion, which is not highlighted in green.
No, I've got that. Okay, I probably don't need to ask any more questions. If we're going to adjourn it, I'll save it till the next time.
Yes.
Just one comment, page 64, it does refer to site plan agreement. I think that's a good idea. Is that something that we should tend to today, before it comes back? Or add in to the resolution the next go round?
Through you, Chair, to Member Stokes, if there is a desire to impose site plan control as part of the application, we would put that into the resolution at the time a decision is rendered. So that would be, if you're planning on adjourning today, that would be the next time.
Thank you.
I just have one question on, to the applicant's agent. On page 78, it certainly looks like a bar on the top of that thing where it's a roll-up door.
Yes, thank you. I believe it's not a bar, it's a workstation. It's going to be used as a workstation for berthing of boats. And this is part of the discussion that we had with the township with Heron. And right, we made it clear that it was going to be a workstation as well as for marine storage.
Okay, it looks awkward to hand a boat through something like that that's that far off the ground, but but anyway, thank you very much. Moved by Member Grogan Green, second by Member Stokes. Be it resolved that minor variance application A 9125 Birchwater Investment Limited to recognize an as-built dock to construct additions to it, as well as to construct a single-story addition with a rooftop sun deck to an existing two-story boathouse, is hereby adjourned until the following is received: a revised floor plan depicting the proposed use within the interior of the first story of the boathouse, which would be attached to the notice of decision at the time of decision is rendered. All those in favor? That's carried. Excuse me. The next application is AO 126 Clark. And that is Ms. DeMello.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-0126 in the name of Clark. The subject lands are known municipally as 1008 Elizabeth Street. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 92 of the agenda package. The applicant proposes to construct a two-story accessory garage that exceeds the maximum permitted accessory building height. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 28 days in advance of this meeting, and 3 comments have been received to date. Comments from Operational Services, Emergency Services, and the Development Services Division indicate no objection. 1 letter of opposition was received from Spencer Wilson at 1011 Elizabeth Street. The letter was shared with committee prior to today's hearing. The proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mello. And is the applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? I believe we have somebody. Go ahead.
Good morning. Yeah, so it's Scott Petrie. I'm the representative for the applicant. It's a fairly straightforward application. I really have nothing additional to add. However, address 1006 Clear Lake Road, Torrance, Ontario, P0C1M0.
Okay, thank you. Have to ask, is there anyone else wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Questions from the members? Oh, yes, member Bridge.
I'll continue my trend here. I believe that when the new bylaws are redone, that the off the waterfront garage height is going to be moved to 25 feet to match the 25-foot garage height that we changed for the waterfront. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Through you, Chair Edwards, to Member Bridgman. So as part of, you're right, as part of the housekeeping update back in 2022 or 3, I don't want to, don't quote me on the date. There was a waterfront update that permitted accessory structures to be up to 25 feet in height. The intent would be that through the comprehensive zoning bylaw update, we allow the same permissions for rural or urban center community areas where the current height may be 20 feet in certain zones.
Thank you very much. I thought that was correct. I support this.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions or comments? Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that minor variance application A0126 Clark to construct a 2-story accessory garage is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a 2-story garage to be 22 feet in height. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you.
And the next application is A02 McBurney. And that is Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A0226 in the name of McBurney. The subject lands are known municipally as 1090 Cedar Rail Drive. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 113 of the agenda package. The applicant proposes to construct a new sleeping cabin. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 28 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments from the Development Services Division, Operational Services Department, Emergency Services Department, and Legislative Services Department all indicate no objection to the application. Comments received for this application were circulated to committee members prior to the meeting. The proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package as well. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. Is the applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? No. Anyone else wishing to speak in on this? Either for or against? No. Questions for the members? Moved by member Burks, second by member Bridgman. Be it resolved that minor variance application A0226 McBurney to construct a new sleeping cabin is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 2,860 square feet, 11%, within 200 feet of the high water mark. This variance is shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision is subject to the following condition, that a gazebo be removed as intended. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And the next application is A03, and that is Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A0326 in the name of Hatton Bower. The subject lands are known municipally as 1210 Ferndale Road, Unit Number 1. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 129 of the agenda package. The applicant proposes to demolish an existing dwelling and sun deck with associated stairs and landing and construct a new dwelling with a walkout basement and sun deck with associated stairs and landing. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 31 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from the Development Services Division, Operational Services Department, Emergency Services Department, and the Legislative Services Department, all indicating no objection to the application. Comments received for this application were circulated to committee members prior to the meeting. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. The applicant's agent here wishes to speak on this. Yes, sorry, go ahead and just come up. We're informal.
Through you, Chair. I am the authorized agent, Brianna Allen. Address is Unit 2, 1107 Muskoka Beach Road, Gravenhurst. The only thing that I would like to address is the portion of the build that is within the 100 feet of the EP2 is the screen porch and the deck. So the client has decided to go to helical piles for the foundation to help reduce any kind of excavation within this area to help with the setback issues. That's it. Thank you.
Excuse me, Chair Edwards. I'm so sorry, but your microphone is off.
Okay, sorry. Read the whole thing again. Here we go. Be it resolved, the minor variance application A0326 Hatton Bower to demolish an existing dwelling and sun deck with associated stairs and landing to construct a new dwelling with a walkout basement and sun deck with associated stairs and landing is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 5,953 square feet or 10.6% within 200 feet of the high water mark. 2, to permit a setback of 90 feet for environmental protected EP2 zone to construct a new dwelling. 3, to permit a setback of 92 feet from an environmental protection EP2 zone to construct a new sun deck. And 4, to permit a sun deck to be 90 feet from environmental protected EP2 zone to construct a new landing and stairs. These variances are granted and are shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. The next application is A0526 Christie, and that is Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A0526 in the name of Christie. The subject lands are known municipally as One Island M25A, which is Duck Island. I would direct the committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 154 of the agenda package. A zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 1624 bylaw 2025-003 was approved by council on January 15th, 2025 to rezone the subject property from open space, private open space island OS4 to waterfront residential water access WR3. Bylaw 2025-003 also permitted the construction of a dock and a single-story boathouse on the north side of the island in a location and extent shown on Schedule 2 to the bylaw. The applicants are now proposing to amend the bylaw by way of a minor variance to make minor changes to the configuration of the dock and the single-story boathouse. The application also proposes to increase the height of the single-story boathouse. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen, and this table is also included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 31 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments were received from Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Matt Beach, the Township's Development and Transportation Engineering Coordinator, Ryan Morrell, the Township's Fire Chief, and Chriselle Story, the Township's Land and Agreements Coordinator, stating no objection. These comments were all circulated to committee prior to today's meeting. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no other comments, but I'm happy to assist with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or the agent here wish to speak on this?
Good morning. This is Neil Christie, 19 Windsor Road, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm the owner of the property. Yeah, the reason I requested the minor variance is that I've decided to make a shorter docks in deference to the concerns of my neighbors had in terms of the visual aspect of the property. And with regards to the change in the dimensions of the boathouse, it's a very small boathouse in order to comply with the lot coverage requirements. And after discussion with my contractor and the vendors making both the boathouse door and the lift, it has to be slightly more narrow and slightly longer and able to accommodate the boat with a lift and a door. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have to ask, anyone else here wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Questions from the members? Moved by Member Bridgman, second by Member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that minor variance application A0526 Christie to amend bylaw 25-003 is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a single-story boathouse to be 13.7 feet in height, and 2, to replace Schedule 2 in bylaw 2025-03 to reflect the reconfiguration dock and single-story boathouse. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. And the next application is A0626. That's in Murphy and Cool, and that is Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A0626 in the name of Murphy and Cool. This morning, staff received additional information from the applicant's agent that they are intending to construct the boathouse at a greater height as opposed to the 13.2 feet indicated in the notice. As sufficient notice hasn't been provided under the Planning Act for this increased height, the application is required to be adjourned and recirculated. I have no other comments, but I'm happy to assist with any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here to speak on this? Yes, go ahead, Ms. Ledger.
Oh, thank you, Chair Edwards.
I'm
Good
sorry, I
morning.
was waiting for you to speak. I thought you knew the.
Well, you know what? When you come in as a panelist, sometimes I missed the whole end of what was being said, and then I can't hear anything until I see you
Okay,
waiting for me.
I'm
And
sorry.
I
Well,
wasn't
go
sure.
ahead.
My apologies. Thank you, and good morning. Terry Ledger, agent for the applicant, 167 Medora Street, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. Yes, thank you. It's unfortunate that the height was different. It might have been just a change from meters to feet, but the drawings in the package are actually correct. And the owners, I believe, are present today as well. And they spoke to their neighbors, and everybody is fine. The real intent of this was to change the roof from a flat roof with a deck on top to a peaked roof, which I think is probably more desirable for everybody. It keeps everything, no party deck on top. So I think the difference is the 1.8 feet. And I don't know if we are able to consider that, given that the drawings are correct and circulated, to go ahead with this today, or because of the difference in the numbers that we have to defer. So I'll leave that to committee, and thank you.
I'll go back to the plan on that.
Through you. In this case, it's the replacement of a legal non-compliant boathouse, and the trigger for the need for relief is the height of the boathouse. So it's staff's opinion that we do need to recirculate the application in this case with the correct height on the notice.
So we have to adjourn, okay?
Correct.
You hear that? We have a motion for that?
To speak for a minute.
Yes, go ahead.
James Murphy. We live at 22 Mirror Lake Drive. My wife and I were both present today. We've been trying to get this project moving along for some time. We came in and paid the fees to get to Committee of Adjustment as soon as we were given notice of January. We understand the delay. I believe, from what I understand, the error is not on our part. The error was somehow populating the document, the summary, and I could be wrong, and if I am, I apologize. But we've had discussions personally, face-to-face with our neighbors and in writing, and there's been no objections. So I hate to see this project get delayed another month because of a minor technical or clerical error. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Would you like to address that?
Through you, I can say staff used the information that was submitted as part of the application to circulate our notice. I understand that there is a discrepancy between the application height that was indicated and what is now being proposed and what is attached as the elevations. So staff's stance remains that we do need to recirculate,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Well, my
Not from
understanding
the
is-
audience, thanks. Are you a neighbor? Well, we normally take the neighbor, but go ahead.
By the way, I love this. I don't even need my glasses. Phil Harding, 1036 Island Park Road, Port Carling. Just a comment on this, and I appreciate where you're coming from, that this has been going on and on. I was going to make this a comment in my delegation. One of the things, as I sat around this table for 12 years, that I appreciated was our notice of circulation, where we advised the neighbors of issues and changes in 1 foot or 2 foot or slightly difference in numbers. What I'm disappointed in is that changed in September. That we no longer even mail neighbors the information. So the only chance the neighbor has of recirculating information is a sign on the end of the driveway. So I'm not sure, to be honest, what recirculating this information is actually going to do. I heard Ms. Ledger speak that they have contacted the neighbors. They're in favor as long as the neighbor is aware of the new, is it a foot? I don't know the specific details of the differences, but I think this township committee has made a change, not necessarily for the better, in our circulation and notice. If I subscribe to engage Muskoka about what my neighbor may or may not be doing and every minor variance, then I get information. But out of our 16,000 taxpayers, I bet we don't have 100 people who would say, tell me everything on every minor variance, and they're probably all the local planners. So I just, in support of what our friends here are trying to do, I'm not sure what recirculating this is going to change other than delay the project for 30 days. Thank you.
Thank you.
This brings up like a whole ball of wax, in my opinion. Like, what am I even sitting here for? I think we have to abide by the rules. I'm sorry to hear about this notice of decision. That is really unfortunate. Who can, once we make our decision, who has the ability to even appeal? We have to give neighbors a choice, even if the process is flawed. So I'm sorry, but I have to agree with the planners here.
So thank you, Phil, for those comments. I'm a little confused. I thought it was part of the Planning Act that these notices had to be sent out by mail. Has that changed?
Mm-hmm.
Through you, the Planning Act no longer requires notices to be mailed individually to owners. We do post our notices in accordance with the Planning Act on our website. We post them on the buildings, and we post the notice signs on properties, but that now fulfills the requirements of the Planning Act and is what the township's new procedure is for circulating applications.
Chair, who established the new procedures? Was it council? Seriously?
I'll look to Director Huff to add some additional context in this regard.
Thank you, Chair. Through the chair, you might recall in the last year and a half, there were 2 Canada Post strikes shortly after each other, and it meant that we weren't able to circulate applications. There was a number of applications that got delayed because we could no longer follow the typical process. And we know that Canada Post is reviewing their own internal procedures to change the timing of how quickly mail gets delivered as well. And so in light of those changes, staff brought a report to council in September, I think, and it made a number of recommendations. We did note that the Planning Act changed about 2 years ago to allow for an alternative notice requirements in light of Number one, the fact that many communities don't have local newspapers, so that was also an alternative available to some communities. But we, like many other municipalities, don't have a newspaper with sufficient circulation to meet those requirements. And in light of that, the Planning Act provided an alternative which allows for municipalities to meet their circulation requirements if they post online on their website. In addition, we do know that there is a transition. We are very active in trying to get information out to people about how to subscribe to the municipality's website in order to receive notifications. And we will continue to post on the property to make sure that neighbors know that there's something going on beside them. So those changes took effect as of December 1st, and we've been proceeding that way since then.
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm thinking two things. Maybe CEO Pink, we could ensure that the next newsletter from the mayor really highlights that, because I'm hoping that most people read that letter. And secondly, I know we're going online in terms of being able to put your email in and manage your account. Are we hoping that's going to open up a new avenue eventually for us?
Maybe I can jump in. I do know that we are communicating through the mayor's newsletter of these changes, and any opportunity that we have to directly advise people in those kinds of written submissions, for sure. And yes, we are working. I've reached out to Cloud Permit to identify if they can provide a solution to us and many municipalities in the same boat of, once we collect enough emails, if we can then associate those with a mapping tool that would allow us to, again, do targeting email circulations. So we're working towards that. There is a lot of privacy issues that we have to work through. So, you know, it's not going to happen right away, but it is something that we're working towards. I don't know if CAO Pink has anything additional to offer to that.
Nothing further. I think through the chair, I think you summarized that quite well. I'm not 100% certain off the top of my head, but I'm fairly confident that we included it in the mayor's newsletter for that purpose, to start spreading the word. And again, council was quite adamant when that matter was discussed, that staff pursue, as Director have pointed out, sort of an online database for emails so that you can subscribe specifically to public notification of planning applications. However, my understanding is we need to be abundantly clear. We have a large number of emails, but they need to be collected specifically for the identified purpose. So we're not able to use emails that we've gathered through other processes, projects, or initiatives for this. So it needs to be structured, but our communication and clerks team is working on it. Certainly hope to grow that database or start collecting for the purpose of planning applications. The other thing I'd also, I think Director F briefly noted it, but for a few years now, we have updated our GeoHub page, and it does identify upcoming planning applications as well. So neighbors can periodically check the maps and see not just within the 200 or 400 feet of the notification that you previously would have got in the mail. You can see anything on the lake or in your neighborhood, upcoming and past applications. So we're hoping through those tools that the word spreads, but I think an online database or a subscription system would be the way to go, and that's something staff's pursuing.
Could I say one more thing then? And I agree with you on all that. And GeoHub is fabulous, but most of the people I ever talk to have no idea it exists. How about a separate letter just about the planning part, so that when people open it up, that's all they're looking at? Because the mayor's message has bits on it. So I'm just really concerned about people not having any idea before they find out that changes have been made. So just a suggestion.
So if I sign up for this, I even have trouble finding the like the portal to find, like on the menu bar. It's hard to find the meetings that are happening. I actually have to work through it because I only do this once a month. It takes me time just to figure that out. But anyway, so I go on and I've given every single application. How would I know what my neighbor does? Do I have to actually go and look every time for my property and what my neighbor is doing all the time?
Through the chair. So the way it would work is if you subscribe, you'll receive basically a package of notices once a month of all of the planning applications that are coming forward that month through Committee of Adjustment or Planning Committee. And I'll also say, further to CIO Pink's comment, in addition to GeoHub, we've also been bulking up the information on applications just on our website on that Engage Muskoka page. So you can actually find information that hasn't been scheduled for a public meeting yet. And this is more of zoning applications and official plan amendment applications. When we get them and we deem them complete, at that point, that information is now being put on the Engage Muskoka page. And it would include all of the documents that were provided in support of those applications. So the EIS would be there, the plan justification report would be there, and that would be well in advance typically of when a public meeting is scheduled. So trying to make efforts to get more information out to people earlier in the process as well.
I will let Ms. Crowder speak.
Thank you, Chair Edwards, for indulging me. I just wanted to say to you that the Township's Planning Department has for many years and continues to have a process where if a property owner wrote in or called in saying, hey, this is my property and I want to know about if my neighbors ever make planning applications, we have a special list that we will put you on so that if an application comes in, we will specifically circulate you. So that would help if you don't want to be checking every month to go through this list. Give us a call, tell us your name and email address, and we will circulate you if an application ever comes in. In the meantime, until this process is up and going, that still remains and is still a process that we carry forward.
Any other comments? No, sorry, we're at the committee right now. But I will make a comment, and I mentioned this when this was passed. Our signs aren't big enough. They're definitely not big enough. We should do something like a sandwich board that they set up and set at the end of the driveway. None of this nailing at a tree 50 feet back and everything else like that. And even if we take a deposit, say of $100 for the sign, and then when they're finished, they bring it back, they get their $100 back, and it just goes out again. And probably if we had 20 of those signs that sat there for a month, and that sturdy enough, they don't get blown over right at the end of the driveway. I've seen cases not here, but other places where they've had the thing in the garage window or something like that. Like it should be out there. If we're going to do this without mailing, I think we should be looking at that very, very strongly. Thank you. Just so that the committee know, what was the difference in height that was circulated compared to what it is?
Through you, we don't have the final elevation numbers of what they want to build at, but I believe it's going to be about 2.8 feet. So
Okay.
So
because this is controversial, we will let you speak. And that normally when it goes to a committee, we don't, but because this is convoluted.
I apologize, Chair.
Your name and.
My name is Lisa Cool. I am the co-owner at 22 Mirror Lake Drive, applicant. You heard from my husband a little bit earlier. I just want to build on some of the things that have already been said. As a retired project manager, I do respect process, but I think outcomes matter too. We have done our due diligence with our neighbors by providing iterative updates to them in terms of our plans of replacing or rebuilding the boathouse. As recently as January, we advised them that this was going to Committee of Adjustments. We have talked to them in person. We have emailed a combination of the two. So they know about today's meeting. They also know about the design change where the previous boathouse
had a patio roof, party roof, as they referred to it. When we told them that we were going to proceed with a peak roof, and I apologize, some of this has already been said, but I just feel compelled to bring it back to outcomes. When we told them that we were going to put a peaked roof on and abandon the party roof, they were elated and very much in support. Given that this has been an ongoing discussion with our neighbors since last summer, when we first thought about proceeding with a boathouse build, my sense is that when we say, well, due to a technicality, the elevation has changed from 13 feet 2 inches to 15, it'll be a nothing for them. So I still question whether or not the validity, the merit of recirculating this information for that purpose. The other thing I would offer is if this committee would entertain maybe a more innovative approach, is we could go back to our neighbors with more detail and get them, and because they already have provided their support in writing by email, is to seek their approval. So it doesn't have to be broadly circulated and cost us another month. We could converse with them as early as today, provided we can get a hold of them. So, and we do have their email contact and cell phone information. So I'll just put it out there. Happy to do that if it helps. I know it's a little outside the norm for process, but we're happy to do that if it can help move things along.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can you make a comment on that?
Yes, my comment would be the applicants have indicated they wish to build at 15 feet. Because the elevations that we circulated don't indicate total height, and the application that staff reviewed indicated 4 meters of height, which is 13.2 feet, it's staff's opinion that the requirements under the Planning Act haven't been met, which is why the adjournment is required.
Yeah, I realize that.
Yeah.
Any comment?
My only comment is I support that position.
We'll have to go with that.
It's unfortunate, but
It is. I'm reading the main motion now. Okay.
one other minor comment is circulation the word that has to be used? Because I don't think this has been circulated. I think it's been posted. That's a bit disingenuous. That's very minor though. So.
Okay, well, I'll read the main motion and then we'll go to the supplemental motion. Moved by member Stokes, second by member Grogan Green, did resolve that minor variance application A0626 Murphy and Cool to rebuild a legal non-conforming single-story boathouse is hereby approved with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a legal non-conforming single-story boathouse to be reconstructed adjacent to land zone environmentally protected EP1 with a height of 13.2 feet. This variance is shown on the attached site plan and elevation to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. So that is the main motion. I have to get a mover and seconder for the other one. Okay, member Bridgman, member Stokes, second it. Moved by member Bridgen, be it second by member Stokes. Be it resolved that resolution be replaced with the following. Be it resolved that minor variance A0626 Murphy and Cool be adjourned to allow the application to be recirculated for an updated height of the boathouse. So we've read that motion, this motion, all in favor? Okay, that's passed. And approve the main motion as amended. Are you approving the main motion as amended, which means we've deferred? All those in favor? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. Okay. I think one of the things that we're gonna do with new business at this point, I'm gonna mention to the council that if an application is brought forward, that they talk to their neighbors on each side and get an approval letter from them. And that maybe something like this wouldn't happen again, where there is just a minor technicality, because it is a shame, because time is money. And that on these things, that if they know, and if there's something minor, that we can get it straightened, because if it's not a mailed out motion, the neighbor's not gonna know anyway. So I think we'll take a 10-minute comfort break. Like to call the meeting back to order. And the next application is A0826 Maloney, and that is Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A0826 in the name of Maloney. The subject lands are known municipally as 1052 Mackenzie Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 191 of the agenda package. The applicant proposes to recognize an as-built sleeping cabin. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 31 days in advance of this meeting, and 4 comments have been received to date. Comments from the Development Services Division, Emergency Services Department, and Legislative Services Department indicate no objection to the application. Comments were received from the Township's Operational Services Department stating that the reduction in setbacks from the unopened road allowance can present future maintenance issues and increased costs associated with tree maintenance. Future use of the unopened road allowance can also be impacted. Operational Services would prefer that the setback from the unopened road allowance be achieved and the setback from the road allowance be maintained if at all possible. Currently, there are no planned road improvements near the location where the reduced setbacks have been proposed on Mackenzie Road. Comments received for this application were circulated to committee members prior to the meeting. The proposed variances are summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. And is there anyone here wishing to speak on this in support of this, the owner? Okay, thank you. Good morning. Go ahead, sir. Name, address, and postal code, please.
Sure, yes. My name's Tom Maloney from 552 Rosecliff Terrace, London, Ontario, N6K4H5. Just wanted to introduce myself and thank everybody for their time and their consideration for this application.
Okay, that's it?
Yes.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in support? Anyone in opposition? Questions from the members? Yes.
Just an informational question, if I could. The unopened road allowance, if the townships decides to open it, do they have to move the sleeping cabin then?
Yes.
Through
go
you,
ahead.
Chair. I'm just scrolling to the site plan. Just give me one moment.
Okay. Through you, in this case, the road allowance is an opened road allowance. There is a road that is associated with it. I think maybe what you're referring to is the description for that section of the bylaw is the minimum setback from a street or an unopened road allowance. In this case, it would be a street where the setback is from. So it's the lot line abutting the street. No problem.
Okay. Any other? Yes.
I guess my question is, are we setting a precedent here that we don't, that we don't want to set? That seems fairly significant numbers here. I don't know what. I mean, that 25, 30 foot would be.
Through you, Chair Edwards, to Member Stokes, staff are not concerned with a precedent in this situation. Variances have been granted in the past for reduced setbacks to streets and to unopened road allowances. And in this case, I believe the actual traveled road is quite a distance from the structure. So even though the street and the allowance associated with the street are in the location and extent as shown on the plan, the actual traveled road is further from the structure. So any chances that roadworks would be near this structure are pretty minimal.
Ms. Crowder, is that on page 191 where you see the travel road Mackenzie and then there's the other line? There is that the unopened road allowance there.
Through you, Chair, I think you're looking at the site plan. Is that what you're referring
I'm
to?
looking at the plan on page 191. Yeah, it shows Mackenzie Road, and then there's a line coming. It looks like that's a road allowance with the existing driveway going in. Is that it?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, so the Mackenzie Road is shown to the
That's the travel section then.
well, it's the site plan was done by the applicant's agent, so I can't
Okay.
confirm that they.
I will go to the applicants. There, you had your hand up, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, I was just going to reinforce what Ms. Crowder was saying there, that the sleeping cabin is a very considerable distance away from the actual road. I know that site plan or that survey looks deceiving, different, and it's not out of alignment with the other property owners in the area along that road. There are other dwellings that are even closer to the actual road than that sleeping cabin.
And then I will say what I've got you on here. The existing septic system, is it still on the road allowance rather than on your property?
That is correct, and I do have approval for that, like a permit with the township, with that's been arranged with Miss Story.
Okay, very good. Okay, well, thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure. Any other questions or comments? Moved by Member Grogan Green, second by Member Bridgman. Be it resolved that minor variance application A0826 Maloney to recognize an as-built sleeping cabin is hereby approved with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a minimum setback from a lot line abutting a street to be 2.5 feet for an as-built sleeping cabin, and 2, to permit a minimum setback from the exterior side lot line to be 2.5 feet for an as-built sleeping cabin. This variance is being granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you, everyone.
You're welcome. And the next application is B 2026, and that's Harding. And that is Ms. Crowder.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A20 2026 in the name of Harding. The subject lands are known municipally as 1036 Island Park Road, Unit Number 2. The purpose and effect of the proposed application is to reconfigure and slightly reduce existing lot coverage within 200 feet of the high water mark to facilitate the construction of a dwelling on the property. The proposal involves removing an existing frame structure and roofed hot tub structure. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 212 of the agenda package. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 21 days in advance of this meeting, and 8 comments have been received to date. Comments were provided by Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, Matt Veach, the Township's Development and Transportation Engineering Coordinator, and Chriselle Story, the Township's Land and Agreements Coordinator, all stating no objection to the application. 5 letters of support were received from Christine Bulmer, John Huckle, Ross McNaughton, Helen Paricio, and Sean Donaldson and Jason Sift. The proposed variance is summarized as shown on the screen. This table was included in the circulation materials and can also be found in the agenda package. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have recommended that the application be approved, subject to a condition that the existing frame building structure and roofed hot tub structure be removed as intended. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Crowder. Is the applicant's agent here? Oh, yes, sir.
He is here. Thank you, Phil Harding, 1036 Island Park Road. Appreciate staff's comments, and it's been a bit of a process getting here, but we did, and I appreciate staff's help in getting here. A couple of things, just a note, in the report commented on a sea can on the property and a garden shed type of thing. Those weren't on the property. They were literally dropped on the pavement so that when I could store furniture. So they're being removed. They're noted now on a site plan. The other thing that was noted in the staff report was it was called a structure on the boathouse to protect the sliding glass door. That wasn't mounted to anything. It was freestanding. It was just laid up against the building to keep the snow off the sliding glass door in the wintertime. It's been removed anyway. So I'm not sure it really technically adds to lot coverage. It's sort of like a teepee over some trees, or over, at times you build wood teepee in the wintertime to protect your air conditioner unit or protect the windows type of thing. And that's really what it was done for. But anyway, it's been removed. So here we go. The only other comment in here, and have the hot tub cover removed, obviously, and then the gazebo on the property. The only issue is potentially from a timing perspective, and it's a condition of minor variance, but hopefully the condition is occupancy, because the gazebo in particular, we're stealing power off that right now to do the water system, to do the internet system until the new cottage is built. So if I had to tear that down, I have no internet on the property until I can get hydro as such into the new building. It will be removed. Also have an individual who wants to sort of buy, I guess, the gazebo. They need to bring a crane in to pick it up and move it, which would happen at the end of the season. Once certainly half loads are off, I couldn't even bring that crane in here today to remove that gazebo. So anyway, hopefully that can be accommodated in the resolution, that we can proceed with building permit or with the minor variance, but the condition that it before an occupancy permit. And that's all. Thank you.
Thanks. And I have to ask, is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone in opposition to this application? Questions from the members? Moved by member Bridgman, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that minor variance application A 2026 Harding to demolish an existing sleeping cabin and construct a new larger dwelling in its place is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 2,826 square feet. That is 11.2% within 200 feet of the high water mark. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following condition. 1, that the existing gazebo and roofed hot tub structure be removed as intended. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments on that? Yes.
So do we not need to amend the resolution?
That's why I'm asking. Okay. And I was going to mention it, and anyone else. So that the hot tub roof structure, so it's the hot tub structure, Phil, that you want, Ruth?
Through you, Chair,
Yes.
if I may. I believe the applicant's ask is whether they can get can keep the gazebo structure on the property until such time as yeah. However, my understanding is that the issuance of conditional permits is the discretion of the building official. So I would personally leave it up to the building official to discern whether they're comfortable issuing a conditional permit. I don't know that it's something we would necessarily put in the resolution. And given that the building official isn't here, I don't know that I'm super comfortable speaking to that.
Just going from memory, just 1 second. Just going from memory, I think we have allowed buildings to stay until something was built and then removed. Is that not right, Mr. Pink?
Thank you. Through you. In the past, yes, building staff have historically allowed structures to remain until such time as the new structure seeks occupancy. However, we have run into issues with that. I'll be forthcoming with committee. In some instances, owners have refused to subsequently remove the building, and municipalities left trying to enforce that. I wonder, and again, with that context, laid out. So there is some concern there. I think what, I'm not sure if this is necessarily a conditional building permit, what committee could contemplate is that an agreement, the condition be changed to then an agreement be entered into under section 45 of the Planning Act, so a minor variance agreement, that commits the property owner removing those buildings subsequent to or prior to occupancy of the new building. I think that would be the avenue if committee is comfortable with the commitment made by the applicant that they will remove it at a later date. Essentially, once the way it's currently worded, you know, it removes any, it gives complete leverage to the municipality. The building permit will simply not be available until those buildings are removed. So by changing that to an agreement, you leave it into the hands of an agreement, and those can be more challenging to enforce.
I gotta ask Mr. Harding how we would like to handle that. I'm sure he would be, he'd probably even post a bond for.
Oh, let's not get crazy. The building's coming down.
Yeah.
There's no question. There's already a conditional that I have to change the boathouse to become a sleeping cabin before I can occupy the permit. Let's be honest, I've sat around this table for over 12 years, 16 years, trying to help enforce our rules. The building's coming down. I see our CBO, Mr. Snyder, is on Zoom at this particular point. Ms. Crowder's comment that if Mr. Snyder could agree to this, what might be nice is if, as opposed to more paperwork and more staff agreements and more time and everything else, if committee, in their words, added just a line that said, respectfully, hopefully, that we could put this as a condition of occupancy. I think it solves all the problem, and we're all in here. We have audio tape, we have videotape. You have my verbal commitment that this building is coming down. That to me is just about as good as something written.
We hate to cut your internet off because if your neighbor was doing a minor variance, you wouldn't.
I wouldn't know about it. Anyway, thank you.
Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, and through you, I'll apologize first. When I was transferred from just observing the meeting to a panelist, I may have missed some things in that transfer. But what I did hear was CAO Pink say that in the past, buildings have been permitted to remain on site through agreements between the building department and property owners, ensuring that they are removed. He is correct. That has occurred successfully on many occasions, but has led to township difficulty in where it hasn't occurred successfully in taking the appropriate enforcement action and being successful with that enforcement action. With that said, what I am hearing from the applicant is their desire to remove this building. It is quite possible that we can come to agreement and successfully mitigate the committee's concerns of the building remaining or not remaining, or adding a condition to this planning relief that is more cumbersome than intended, perhaps.
Thank you very much for that. I have a question. Since we've gone to the AMPS penalty system, where if it wasn't removed, we could charge it and add it to the taxes. Is this right, or am I misunderstanding that? Because I thought that's why we put the AMPS system in, so we didn't have to go to the courts. We'd like to answer that. Yep.
So CIO Pink can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe the AMPS is available for the zoning bylaw. I believe those are part 3 charge.
Okay, that's why I asked. I wasn't sure.
Yep.
I knew we had it and we put it on, but I just.
That's correct. Not applicable to the zoning bylaw nor the building code, I believe. So that would not be an available tool.
Okay. Yes, Member Bridgman.
Can I just clarify what Mr. Snyder just said? I think what he said was leave this as it is and he will work something out with Mr. Harding. Was that what I gathered, Mr. Snyder?
I believe that's what he said. Is that right, Mr. Snyder?
Yes, it can be resolved that way unless committee has specific concern that they would like to address through their process.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Pink.
Through the chair, just to be clear, it certainly can be left in the CBO's hands, but I think the way that condition is currently worded, if it's imposed, the chief building official will not be able to issue a building permit until it's removed. So the condition would have to be struck, and you would be simply leaving it in the CBO's hands to deal with. Hence why I previously suggested one sort of hybrid approach is to require an agreement to at least solidify that effect. So I think you have some options in front.
Would you like to write the agreement up so that we know what we're doing on that, or someone from the planning department?
We can work on it.
Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute break. Oh, sorry. We'll take a 5-minute break.
Would you say prior to? Amended to give people present to the word or agreement.
They're not always as smooth as this. Sometimes they really get difficult. I'm going to call the meeting back to order. So we're going to have a discussion on how we want to handle this because we didn't get committee's input into this. So can we go back online now or are we still online? Okay. So I'm going to let Ms. Crowder give us some options. And then we'll go from there and we can satisfy everything for Mr. Snyder and Ms. Crowder. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Just before staff were able to write up the resolution, we just are hoping for some guidance from committee. There are a few different routes and options we can go to implement to get the outcome that we're looking at. So first would be to leave the resolution as is, which is the firm condition. That being said, the chief building official may not be able to issue then a permit for the dwelling until that structure is removed. So it wouldn't be achieving what the applicant is asking for, but that is an option. Another option is to amend the resolution so that the conditional building permit be amended to include that the frame structure must be removed prior to occupancy being granted for the dwelling. So that would allow the application to go through, a permit issued for the dwelling, but they would not receive occupancy of the dwelling until such time as the structure is removed from the property. Another option is a minor variance agreement under the Planning Act, which would be an agreement entered into between the applicant and the township that the structure be removed. There is typically a security held as part of that agreement. So it would be like a bond held as part of that the owner would provide the securities to the township, and then securities would be returned once that structure is removed. So those are the three kind of main options. I would probably recommend option 2, which is that the conditional building permit be amended to include that the structure be removed prior to occupancy being granted, but committee has those 3 options at their discretion.
Okay, any comments from the committee? How would you like to handle this?
I would say that option 2 sounds like the most elegant one. So I'm on board with that one.
Anyone else?
I have to admit, I'm now confused. What was the issue? I know the hydro's coming from the gazebo, but the occupancy permit can't be given until that's removed. Can't you do that the day that you don't need the hydro anymore? I don't quite understand.
Through you.
Mr. Harding, I'm going to let you comment. I normally don't do this when it goes to committee, but.
So just for committee, I'm more than happy to amend the conditional occupancy permit, which is the simplest, leaves it in Mr. Snyder's hands, and thank you all as we move forward. So it just allows the building to stay there until we move into the other one. And then, because you're approving the lot coverage ahead of time, and then, but I can't use it until it's removed.
I'm going to ask Mr. Snyder, does that satisfy you, Mr. Snyder?
I think that could be achieved. It would be the responsibility of the property owner to prepare the amendments to the document. And I think that could be achieved. With a similarly with a conditional permit to demolish the building, the existing conditional building permit agreement could be amended to incorporate the conditions of the gazebo being demolished prior to occupancy, and then becomes regulated by the Building Code Act and the conditional permit agreement.
Okay, ready?
I'm okay with option 2.
Option 2? Okay. Did you get option 2 then?
I gotta write it yet, so
Okay, great. Just be a couple of minutes. Mover and a seconder for this, okay. Moved by member Stokes, second by member Bridgman. Be it resolved that resolution be amended by replacing condition 1 with the following. That the conditional building permit for the dwelling be amended to require that the frame building structure and the roofed hot tub structure be removed prior to occupancy being granted to the satisfaction of the township. Any questions or comments on that? Mr. Harding, are you agreeable to that?
Thank you.
Okay, I will call the question on this. All in favor of this motion? And then the other one will be as amended. Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. We're fast no matter how long it takes. And that goes for the, I don't sign it, okay. Okay, so then we got that one. We have some unfinished business. That is A 8925 THW Holdings, and that is Ms. Crowder.
Hey, thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 8925 in the name of THW Holdings, Inc. The purpose and effect of the proposed minor variance application is to demolish an existing dock and construct a new, larger dock and boat lift. The application was originally presented to the Committee of Adjustment on March 9th, 2026. The application was deferred for the applicants to address the following item: to allow the applicant to revise the proposal and reduce the proposed dock width, which may include the removal of the boat lift. The applicants have amended their proposal to address the items above, the items just noted. These changes include the following. The boat lift has now been removed from the proposal, and the new proposed dock has been slightly reconfigured to include a boat slip. In particular, the proposed dock has been redesigned to be 32 feet in width instead of the originally proposed 41 feet. Staff are satisfied with the proposed changes. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and recommend that the application be approved, subject to the as-built boat lift being removed. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Is it applicant or applicants each in here wishing to speak on this?
Good morning, Chair Edwards and committee members. Bassett Madamidola from the Coning Group, address 3 Armstrong Point Road in Port Carling, Ontario. Postal code is POB 1J0. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, thank you. I have to ask, is there anyone wishing to speak in support of this application? In opposition to this application? Questions from the members? Moved by member Stokes, second by member Bridgman, and be it resolved that minor variance application A 8925 revised THW Holdings, Inc. to demolish an existing dock and construct a new larger dock is hereby approved, with the following variance being granted: to permit a cumulative dock width of 32 feet. This variance is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision and is subject to the following condition. 1, that the as-built boat lift be removed as intended. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay. We're down to moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Stokes. Be it resolved that Committee of Adjustment adjourned at 11:07 a.m. and the regular Committee of Adjustment hearing will be held Friday, May the 15th, 2026 at 9 a.m. That is because of the conference. All those in favor? That's carried.